Well, the post-season relegation tour continues with a lovely old joint up to Merseyside. A couple of goals, a point, and maybe a thunder bastard to talk about. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Probably the most Spinal Tap moment, just to break the fourth wall here. In the green room, we were just discussing whether Thunder Bastard would get us demonetized on YouTube. It's just weird that the things we talk about. Welcome, Dave, in this parallel universe of post-season friendlies.
Yeah, again, to be honest, behind the closed wall, I would talk about a post-season friendly. I saw one worse one this afternoon. I have to admit,
right.
in the flesh, I saw it. It was, I have to admit, someone offered me a spare ticket. My brother-in-law, bless him, didn't have anyone to go with, invited me, staunch West Ham fan. I sat and watched West Ham Tottenham, and it was dreadful.
Oh, okay.
Really dreadful.
You willingly went back to that horrible stadium as well, Dave.
Yeah, and this time we made sure. I said, look, we're leaving 5 minutes before the end. Absolutely. So I was home here by just after 6. So not bad at all. Yeah.
Was it dreadful at Goodison yesterday, Richard?
It wasn't glorious sunshine. Before we go too far, happy May the 4th. Happy Huddersfield Day to everyone who celebrates it. This time last year, Dave, we were probably, I don't know, apologising to Susan at the Maharani or something like that. I can't remember.
Man, what scenes in the Maharani. Absolutely brilliant. Just finished off the day. Well, it didn't. We actually then decamped back to the ground, of course, didn't we? But what an evening that was. And if you remember, we turned up and our good colleague Craig was there with a posse of his mates, I think, from his neck of the woods as well. So it's just superb on it. What a day! What an absolute dream of a day. And obviously, then looking forward to tomorrow, which would have been the bank holiday and the obviously parade in the park.
Going down the park, yeah. So not as jubilant as we were this time last year, Ben, but certainly, yeah. Was it? I think we got rallied from 2 goals behind, saw a thunderburst. Could I chuck it in there? I think we were going to try and get to 15 minutes, but we're chucking it in there. And yeah, really great to see so many people pre-match. The Ship and Mitre in Liverpool City Centre, full of Ipswich Town. Very friendly atmosphere, and of course, lots of stuff around Goodison, which we were kind of buying into as well. So lovely day out.
There you go. One of the great grounds about to be ticked off again. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. I'm only half in jest. We are still in the serious business of this Premier League season. It was round 35, Ipswich up to Goodison. If you are here live in YouTube, please get involved in the comments. We'll put as many of them up, and you can ask Dave and Rich your questions later on in the show. And it sounds like in the Innovation Lab segment, we're going to be hearing all about West Ham Spurs from a maybe that last
all of 20 seconds of it. Yeah.
It's rubbish.
All in 20 seconds of it. There you go. If you're listening after the fact on audio, brilliant stuff. Big hello from everybody. Hang on in there until the end of the season. And you can, of course, come and join us across in our wonderful Telegram group where the transfer chat has already began. Right, let's head up to Goodison then. And yeah, I suppose we can talk a little bit about the kind of stadium bits and bobs there. But let's get into the team news first. We'll go to you, Rich. It was Palmer in goal, O'Shea, Wolfenden, Burgess, Greaves. Sammy Morsey partnered with Jack Taylor. How about that? And Mari Hutchinson, Connor Chaplin, Enciso, and Delap is your 11. What did you say the pub was called, Rich? The Mitre Football. The Ship and Mitre. What was the reaction in the Ship and Mitre, or had you already walked down to the ground then? Anyway, what was your reaction when the team came out?
Great to see Amari back. I don't think you guys were expecting that on the pre-match show. Obviously, we're expecting someone to come in for Johnson, and I think that was probably both of you guys were hoping it would be Amari. Otherwise, it's a bit of a square peg in a round hole. So that was good. The question mark, is he going to get to the end of the game? He very much did, if I remember rightly, too. And maybe Twin Zabi came on for him towards the end, if I remember rightly. But yeah, no, Jack Clark on the bench. Feel really sorry for Jack Clark, poor guy.
Oh.
But at least he's going to finish. And probably think we'll talk maybe a bit more about it, Ben, at the end. Apart from the fact that 3 behind Delap is the most diminutive, probably behind a striker in any team in the Premier League ever, perhaps, with Chaplin in there. It looked solid. It looked stable, and some good options on the bench, assuming they were fit.
Well, Richard Woodward, I'll tell you, Barcelona 2009 wasn't a very tall team, was it? So maybe that's what we're trying to emulate there anyway.
Well, David Moyes Everton, though, again.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Seb picked up on that. They are massive. Dave, anything to add on that selection?
Yeah, as you quite rightly said, a little bit harsh maybe on on poor Jack Clark. Obviously, what happened the previous weekends, but no, great to see Hutchinson back, and great to see him do the full 90 out of sort of nowhere. He's back and playing the full 90 odd. Incredible, really, and lovely. Yeah, later on in the season, lovely to see Chaplin back getting a start as well.
Lovely goal. For Everton, David, we'll come to you first. England's Jordan Pickford. It was Mikolenko and Patterson fullbacks. Branthwaite, O'Brien. Spot the 6-footer. You'll find one every 5 meters here. Garner, Gay, Alcaraz and Jai, McNeil and Beto, Dave. A very David Moyes looking sturdy Premier League team that's hard to beat, right?
Yeah, I think you say sturdy. Obviously, McNeil, more of him in a bit, was sort of back after a fair old. Has been back recently after a fair old layoff. Even the lesser spotted Calvert-Lewin on the bench. I suppose what we should also say, the lesser spotted Calvin Phillips also pitching up on our bench, which perhaps we overlooked. But no, as you say, quite a big Everton side, and again, as we say, pretty much everywhere, reasonably solid, experienced lineup there.
And we didn't hear from you on the preview show this week, Rich. Who were you sort of worried about, stroke excited to see in that Everton lineup?
I quite liked Dwight McNeil early in the season, and he didn't really have a good game at Portman, if I remember right, Dave. He didn't really show up that day, but I liked him, and it was as soon as I saw his name on the team sheet coming back from injury, a little bit worried that he might try to make an impact. Spoiler alert, and that was the case. Calvert-Lewin on the bench as well also worried me. He was returning from injury. I think Seb expected him not to even feature in the squads, and miraculously he appears. And maybe we should talk about this Goodison effect, Ben, and the atmosphere going into that game. Really excited, real buzz around the stadium.
One more game after this, right, Rich? One
more game, and it's a Sunday at something like 12:30, and it's against Southampton. So. Yeah. It's not. I guess if you're a purist, they might get goals, hopefully. But 3 p.m. on a Saturday kind of feels like the last proper game, and I guess we wanted to make a game of it ourselves. But yeah, flags, confetti, Z cars, ticking all kinds of boxes. I won't pretend that I thought it was a particularly good away end. Wooden floors.
Have you not been before?
No, stanchion inside the roof that should probably be outside.
I could have told you that, mate.
I have to apologise to my mate Mark, who I bought our tickets, and I got my kind of situational awareness wrong and thought I was finding the pitch view, and I got it the wrong way around and basically bought the back row thinking I bought the front row. So we were right at the back. The away end, I have to say, the away end was fantastic. Given we've talked about
hear it right the way
kind of this end of season kind of feel to things, now things are done and dusted. The away end was brilliant. I have to say, once Everton, the game kicked off and they got the goals, very little fanfare around it, Ben. I was a bit surprised, actually. A lot of chat about, how great Goodison is. And of course, it is one of these great, football venues in England and maybe in European football. I was a bit disappointed, if I'm honest. I don't know if anyone else in the chat was there and felt the same, but it didn't really come across as a fearsome kind of celebration. And maybe because folk are sad, perhaps. I'm trying to think how I'd feel about Portman Road being knocked down. I guess I'd probably miss it and be a bit melancholy. I don't know.
And also, don't you think they almost took it for granted they're going to roll us over, kind of?
Maybe so.
Especially how the scoring went.
Yeah, but even before the goals went in, Dave, there was kind of the pre-match,
the Ipswich fans,
the big display behind the goal. It was all pretty good, but maybe you're right, Dave. It was a bit of complacency, like, oh well, this is a relegated team, we don't need to try. And I kind of was a bit disappointed I didn't get to sample the great atmospheres you kind of hear over the years of Goodison.
Colin will probably say in the chat, one of the best atmospheres I've ever been in was that cup quarter-final game. I've said it before. I said it on the Rewind show this last week. About 45,000 in Goodison that day. And that day, you were at the end, opposite the Gladys end. You were at the other end, and you were low. Unbelievable. It was like cacophony round the ground. But what we should mention, real star of the show, obviously yesterday, was young Teddy Fair. Teddy Fairs.
Fairs Jr.
Young Teddy Fairs.
I was
Brilliant.
literally set up to say that, and I forgot, didn't I? So, Dave, our own Joe Fair's eldest son, came out with Sammy Morsey as the chief sub. How good is that?
Oh, mate, sounded like he had a hell of a time. His pics of him standing like beside of the pitch when they're doing the warm up and all sorts. Looked like he absolutely had a brilliant time. And I know Joe said in the chat that it all went brilliant and they looked after him superbly well. So that's really good to hear. What a day! What a day for him.
Excellent stuff. How, Richard, did we start in the? I mean, we're going to go behind just after the quarter mark, but how was the first quarter before that?
Kind of our typical setup away from home was to kind of sit in a little bit and frustrate, and then try and attack on the break. It was kind of Delap and Enciso were a little bit isolated on halfway, but I thought the shape was working, and Everton were largely resorting to crosses into the box. I think Beto does an overhead kick which goes miles over, and Palmer has to catch a few things and fist a few things away. But otherwise, I didn't feel particularly concerned. Who's the guy on Jonathan Pearce on Match Today? I watched Match Today last night, and he was sort of saying, well, that the goal had been coming, and I didn't have that sense in the stadium. I kind of thought we were maybe not imposing ourselves particularly well. There weren't enough bodies maybe around Enciso and Delap to make meaningful attacks when Mari's maybe breaking out. But other than that, Ben, I thought we were in control. But then suddenly out of nowhere, Premier League teams do what Everton did.
And I think Richard and the Town End, Dave, had a view of a rather lovely crossing for Beto, who powers the header in here.
The ball, I think it's Mikalenko. I think O'Shea gets a really good block on a Mikalenko left foot cross deep down the left. And I used to call it luck, I suppose. It just spins back perfectly for Alcaraz. He sort of gets the ball out of his feet. How can he defend that? It's a class cross. He's sort of swinging it in, bends it in towards a 6-yard box. And placement's perfect. It's just out just between Burgess and I think Burgess and I think it's Burgess and Greaves, I believe. It must be Burgess and Greaves. And it's a good header from Beto, just gets there and glances at Palmer's got no chance. The delivery made that goal, superb goal.
It was a great header though.
It was.
Beto's put it, we see that so often that strikers going to put the ball straight at the goalkeeper. Beto's put it right at the side net. I think probably, Dave's spot on. I thought O'Shea had done the hard work, and then the ball, as you say, kind of just spins on the pitch and kind of sets itself really nicely for Alcaraz. Yeah. Great sweeping cross, but I kind of think there's three players there. I think it's O'Shea. I think Morsey might be one of them, perhaps, who could engage a little bit more. He has a bit too much space for me, Alcaraz, but once the ball's in, Wolfenen's like 3-4 inches too short, isn't he? Tries to get a head on it
a bit.
And Beto it's a great headed goal, to be honest. And that's players like that do that, don't they? And as I said, it did feel out of nothing at the time, Ben. But
how do we respond to going behind, Rich?
Delap decides to get into some fights and probably gets a little bit lucky.
Cut and paste.
I mean, it's down the opposite end to us, and so I'm going to very much remark on these with blue tint spectacles. But it felt like Delap was a bit unfortunate the first time. I think is it Branthwaite or it's either O'Brien or Branthwaite. A little bit of handbags, and I think they both get a card. And then I think Branthwaite and Delap go after each other again, going for a ball, and then O'Brien, I think, is the one who is he the one who ends up on the deck, Dave, or have I got my Everton centre backs the wrong way around?
I think you've got your 6'4" players.
Yeah, I think they've got them the wrong way around. I mean, they're the opposite end to me. But it felt like they were. Delap was trying to get us G'd up, and suddenly, Ben, all of us are kind of going, please not a repeat of Newcastle. Please not a repeat of Villa. He gets the second yellow straight away down to 10 because that might have it might have been a very different story. But fortunately, I thought the referee after that had a pretty poor kind of the usual fare for us of referees not being necessarily consistent. But we didn't really settle too much. The pattern kind of continued. But again, I didn't feel a huge amount under threat until suddenly Dwight McNeil picks the ball up in space.
Yeah, what went on with this one, Rich? Because, Palmer's been a pretty good shot stopper. They managed to get the... I don't know if it's the hard cam in the stand there from behind him. And I was expecting it to kind of really banana in the other direction. He just got his weight on the wrong foot or something.
Maybe. I mean, he sits him down. It is a strange one, and I mean, I'm looking alongside it, so it's difficult to see the swerve. We have to give credit to Everton because actually there's a good passage here that gets us out of position, and it starts. I mentioned Delap on a card charging around. I think there's a 50-50 on halfway. I think it's with Garner. I think I've got it right this time. And I think Delap not on a card maybe goes in stronger on that. And because he doesn't, he backs away and actually gives Garner space. And Enciso's a little bit passive as well. And then Dye does really well here. There's a 1-2. He drags Burgess out a little bit, Greaves 2, and Enciso's out of the game completely. And it's a good ball into McNeil from Patterson. And Taylor is a little bit slow for me. But I think the issue really, Ben, is that it swerves in behind Burgess. I think Burgess is right in the line of sight for Palmer. It has got a little bit of swerve on it, but I think maybe the fact that Burgess is blocking his view makes it really difficult. And it does have a little bit of movement, but yeah, I'm not sure what Dave thinks about it. I'm not sure.
I think you're doing McNeil perhaps a little disservice there. I think it's just class technique. It's class technique.
Oh, I'm not. Yeah.
So, no. You know what I mean? No, he's hitting it with the outside of his left foot. It's just, and you're right. He does. I think in Palmer's difference to Palmer, he is caught out because he is blocked off perhaps by Burgess, but it just moves a hell of a lot. The ball just moves. And in that move, it's really, really clever play from McNeil. He's sort of, if you watch the build up to that move, he buys himself that space. He's not really involved in the move, but you can see he sort of drops out. And maybe it's a well-rehearsed move, obviously, to get him there 25 yards out, whatever. But he's really clever how he makes that pocket of space for himself. I agree with you. Perhaps Taylor gets drawn in a bit, but yeah, it's a weird one. When said on TV,
I thought it was deflected first time I saw it, Dave.
Sorry, say it again.
I thought that must have taken a deflection first time I saw it.
Did, but no, I think it's a technique and it moves a hell of a lot. And I think Palmer's unsighted and he's just, his weight's all wrong. Just doesn't expect it at all.
And what's the away end thinking there, Rich? Oh, it's going to have a beer now. It's going to get a hot dog.
Yeah, well, Paul Merson on Sky Sports said game over, didn't he?
Yeah, right.
So the commentator who did us a favour, massive assist from Paul Merson. Yeah, I kind of, it felt like the inevitable. Part of me did recall the conversation that you guys were having about David Moyes and the Prematch show, though. It didn't feel like it was one of those ones that would necessarily get away with us unless maybe we got another red card. I did kind of feel like at least a David Moyes team would probably at some point shut up shop and not going to go and get 5 or 6. But then the devil on the shoulder is then saying, well, it's the last Saturday, 3 p.m. at Goodison, and they want to put on a show. So I actually kind of, it was difficult to know how the game was going to pan out at that point, Ben. But yeah, we've got too much of a sample size to suggest that maybe we'd have gone down 3 or 4, and then up pops Julio Enciso.
Goal of the season, Rich?
I think it's up there, isn't it? Yeah, got to be. Yeah.
Let us know in the chat on that one. But you want to take this, Rich? I'm Dave's not sure on the Thunder Bastard metric. Big potential for me, Rich.
Yeah, I think so too. Amari had broken through a few times. Got my F's and T's the right way around there, but maybe ran into a bit of a cul-de-sac. Morsey does really well to keep the ball alive and recycle it. Burgess into Enciso, who does brilliantly twice. I think it's Dye he goes sliding into, and I think he drops someone as well. And I think maybe there's who's the Everton player who's running off him? It's maybe Garner again. I'm trying to chuck Garner under the bus just because I know his name. He's maybe a little bit backing off him, but maybe not expecting the shot from there. And
he is miles out, Rich. I'm just looking at the shot map on here. He's absolutely miles out.
Couldn't have hit it any better. And it's curling away from Pickford. It starts out so high, having seen it back on Match Today. It starts out so high. I think in the away end, I think it landed right in the bottom corner of the goal. So it must have come down really high, and that makes it impossible for Pickford, having seen it clips the bar on its way in. I have to say, I'm putting it trademark Blue Monday Thunder Bastard goal. Absolute worldie. And the interesting thing I wanted to understand from folk in the chat or Dave or even you, Ben, if you've seen it, does he go and apologise to Jordan Pickford for scoring a worldie past him? I'm trying to figure out.
I don't think he does. He goes to get the ball. And Pickford's obviously wise to not get a yellow card for delaying the restart. And there's a little bit of, because he hands the ball back kind of readily, there's a kind of little, I think he was ready to kind of grab it off him, and it all gets very
I thought it was like a bit of a flex. Ryan Enciso to go, "You've just been done. Don't worry, you will feature on these goal montage videos for the next 10 years when people want to see this again." But yeah, brilliant goal, and as you say, Ben, probably our goal of the season.
Dave, I don't want to hear about philosophies and tactics. Get near the goal and kick it as hard as you can. Football.
Kick it in the goal bin. It was yeah. I mean, but the thing is, he missed a far easier chance literally 5 minutes before, where he cuts inside on his right foot and just completely drags it wide. But the thing with Enciso, that's his trademark goal. He scored goal of the season, what, 2-3 seasons ago?
You'd hate
Man
to play
City,
with
top corner.
He'd be called a hogger at school,
Mate,
wouldn't
he must be the most frustrating. All he is. We as fans, you watch him. He's the most frustrating, and it's one of the for Christ. Oh, fuck me! What a goal! He is unbelievable strike. You're quite right, and I know I was hedging before the start, but yeah, that's bar. The bit that it dips and clips the bar as well.
The dip is what maybe makes it second guessing it for the Thunderbastard, because it's got to be rising. It definitely wasn't rising, but he starts it so high and it's perfect, isn't it, in terms of being pitful?
But if you watch it, it's really weird because it's almost he's not in his stride. He gets it with no backlift at all. It's a hell of a technique. It really is. But yeah, he's a player, really. I mean, what a player! But Christ, he must be frustrating to play.
Well, yeah, you talked about the chance he missed just before that. He skies one in the second half.
Yeah.
Delap sets him up, or Hirst sets him up, if I remember. So, yeah, for
great to watch.
every 3 or 4 chances, you get a worldie, which is the odds aren't too bad.
And what I love about him, he's so single-minded because you know what he wants. You know he wants to get the ball left. He wants to drop his shoulder. He wants to come inside and have a crack from anywhere. Just love players like that, don't you?
But you kind of worry.
Any chance next season? Do you think?
Nah. I think McKenna said as much in the press conference. He batted that one away. I have 2 things to say though. The strikers are obviously, well, I'm going to make this run, but I'm not sprinting because I'm not getting the ball. And I know football is you know a very visual game, but there's something about the sound in an away game, and they had the mic boom right next to the post. Thud, away in, goes wild. There's always like a slight little second. Because you know you're down the other end of the ground. Oh, it's beautiful. Everything about that. Beautiful.
On that note, it's not quite as dramatic as this. Do you remember the Giovanni Dos Santos? You know, the end of season 4 or 5 game cameo, and Roy Keane coming out after that last game saying, "Don't think he's coming back here." Absolutely no chance.
But his recruitment in the summer suggested that he thought Dos Santos wasn't that important for us because he. Yeah, we didn't win till October, didn't we? But just to finish the kind of point, Ben, before half time, we ended the half.
We won 3 on the bounce. We're just beating Norwich, but just don't get too high because he ain't coming back. Brilliant.
We don't need him either. You kind of felt like, Ben, to the point the discussion we were having before. I didn't feel like a goal was coming for us, so that was absolutely vital. That something out of nothing, and that's why you bring these players in like Enciso, and someone's mentioned Sami Ento in the chat as well. You know, that little bit of X factor. Because that turned the game, it really did. You know, it could have been 3 or 4 after that if things hadn't gone our way. And Ciso's, we ended the half really strongly and go into it with a bit of momentum in the second half.
Yeah, David Moyes, I watched the 2 pressers just before we did this. He said that goal and the timing of the goal and the type of goal completely put us back into the game.
Oh, definitely did. Yeah, I think you're right. You hit on something there. The nature, the type, the nature of the goal. Hang on, they got this in their locker, have they? Okay. Completely changed the complexion because. Yeah, I think I switched on. I was watching it, but then spoiler alert, I did switch on Radio Suffolk just before halftime, like get the comments from Brenner and Alex Mappy and stuff, and they were very much of that. Oh yeah, this has completely changed the complexion of the game because really, we were created 1 or 2, and obviously we said about the chance that Enciso had dragged wide, but he said really we weren't really troubling them too much. But whoa, there we go.
Let's go into the second half. We'll stick with you, Dave, and I'll jump ahead a little bit. Second half, Everton, 1 shot, none on target, 0.05 XG. So there is a swing in our favour in the second half, Dave.
I think we're managing it, quite well. Again, we weren't really creating much, Rich, were we? Not really, nothing much. But we were, in the game. It's not as if, we've all seen games like this season too. Man United, one for instance, springs to mind, game like that where you can see just after half time, and it's like you're back down, game over sort of thing.
Mm.
So no, while we were still in it, while we were in it at 2-1, there was more than a chance. We handled it really well. Like I said, Amari came back in. I thought he was good yesterday, wasn't he? He was good, worryingly good. So near the end of the season, but anyway, So no, we acquitted ourselves really well in the second half.
Yeah. Sorry,
go on, Rich. Can you take us up to? There's a triple sub sort of at the 3/4 mark. Can you take us up to there?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest observation for how we started the second half was I kind of talked about how we sat in a little bit to start the game and let Everton come on to us and then try to break. We were the back line, the back four were at least 2, 3, 4 yards further up the field. We were very much camped on halfway when we were in possession, which we certainly weren't at the start of the first half. So that was kind of psychologically quite good and penned Everton in. And of course, Everton got out a few times, but it was the same kind of floaty crosses in, Ben. That was all they seemed to have. There weren't. McNeil kind of packed up his shooting boots, didn't try stuff from range, and we slowly just got that momentum again. Quite a lot of handbags, a lot of naughty bits and pieces yesterday. Chaplin and Alcaraz, I think, have a face-off on halfway, and that's a little bit naughty. And then Enciso's dashing down the left-hand side, gets slashed at by Gay, and then Ndiaye jumps into the back of him, and no yellow cards for any of those. And Morsey in the first half, his first foul was a yellow card. I know we're a boring, broken record type thing about Premier League referees, but these yellow cards are a bit frustrating when you kind of see.
Having said that, he did share them out yesterday. I think it was 4 each.
Yeah,
was it? It didn't feel like that in the away end, but then that's my
never does in the away end, mate.
But yeah, so I could hold my hands up to that. But there was a few moments of inconsistency, and there's one after the equaliser, which just seems a bit weird, which we'll come on to later. But yeah, in terms of Dave's right, maybe Delap getting in down the left hand side, flashes one in, and Enciso low shot, similar to the one in the first half, is probably the highlight. And then I guess we've got used to talking about our subs as starters and finishers, and it definitely felt for once, Ben, this season that we were bringing on quality to replace quality, as opposed to maybe taking off players who were knackered and maybe not having the quality to replace them. It was Phillips and Kayusta and Hirst who came on, wasn't it?
Clark Phillips and
sorry.
No worries. Kayusta comes on later, but you're right, and Rich as well. McKenna's talked all week about availabilities and whatnot. Dave, do you want to take us up to the goal, matey?
It was quite funny. Someone commented in the chat, I think, as soon as Clark came on, I think he's got a sort of like in a foot race with O'Brien. It's about 6. They said it was like a fifth former. It's like a second former against a fifth former in the playground, which made me smile. But he did quite well. I mean, the goal itself is really all about Hutchison, isn't it? He's so direct. He receives the ball wide right and absolutely drives for the line. I think is Gay, who's trying to sort of shut him down, but doesn't. Drives to the line, stands up the ball at back post, and this is classic centre forward play by Hirst, isn't it? Absolutely.
Get it in the mix, Dave.
Get it in the mix. I think he gets between Harrison and might be O'Brien again. I think it's Jack Harrison's on by sub by then, and he just gets up on an angle about 3 or 4 yards out, heads it down as you should do, and at really point blank range. Pickford's no chance, but classic centre forward play. That brilliant cross from Hutchison and just brilliant centre forward play. And again, when he came on, we realised we need him next season. He'll do well, I think, if we can keep him fit, of course.
Yeah, of course. It's lovely to come back from 2-0 down, Rich, especially with those, with a spectacular goal and then one in front of. And I think it's important as well that, those away supporters who've been there every week this year get, at least a couple more moments like that. And look, it's not going to keep us in the division, but I'm sure you bloody well enjoyed it when that one dropped inside the net, yeah?
Yeah, and unlike the commentary from that one felt like it was coming. Yeah, lack of clear-cut chances perhaps, but momentum was certainly in our favour at that point. And can you disregard everything I've said up to the referee up to this point? Because there's he ignores a blatant dive from Patterson trying to get her Greaves. And then to be fair, there's a really bad challenge on O'Shea by Mikalenko that probably should have been stopped, but plays the advantage. I think probably you're right. I think is it Ndiaye or Gay? I think it's Gay who goes sliding in for the tackle. And I think actually that deflects it up and loops it. And
I think it gets a nick, doesn't it?
I think you've identified the right players there, Dave. And fair play to Hirst, Ben. He's really alert. Harrison's really flat-footed. The ball kind of loops up higher maybe than is it O'Brien is expecting, and he gets in there. And the great thing is heads it into the turf as well, makes it really difficult for Pickford. And as you say, Steen's in front of the away end, and it definitely had the feeling of Ipswich in the last 2 years rather than this season, where we've always kind of struggled once we've conceded the first or even the second goal. We don't really come back into matches this season, Ben, but it felt like the old days where we, are we going to get a Sarmiento moment and actually win the damn thing?
Saw the great Kevin Beattie score a very similar goal.
Yeah, wow. At that end of the ground.
At that end of the ground as well. Although Kevin Beattie famously was about 2 feet above the crossbar when he headed it down in. But anyway.
Well, this was a better cross, obviously, then, yeah?
I think it was a corner. I think it was a Gates corner flicked on by Osman.
Yeah,
I think it was flicked on. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Brilliant. Any signs, Dave, of this excellent comeback? You think, with this season, gonna lose this one?
No, I don't think so. Was it Rich? No, not really at all. I think we saw it pretty.
6 minutes of added time, though, Dave. Well, and I think we had a couple of corners. There was a Kiyusta long throw in, but Everton break forward at the 95th and 30 seconds.
What is brilliant? They win a corner and the ref blows up as they're about to take the corner.
It's like, there's enough time, that ref. You don't need to give them the corner. And I think we gave a foul on Calvert-Lewin, and it was perfect position to cross it in for Calvert-Lewin to score the header, Ben. But we defended really heroically, and actually, I think if any team was going to win it, it might have been us. But again, maybe a lack of clear-cut chances. But just great to come back from 2 goals down.
Ashley Young was not happy with the ref at the end, was he? Not allowing that. Yeah,
never is.
No, superb. That was good. Yeah,
career.
Still find him.
Right. Do you want to give me? Actually, don't give me summons up, Dave. Talk to me about what you can take from that game that may be pertinent for next season.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you can talk about the Enciso goal. Well, he's probably not likely. I think yes, you can. Certainly George Hirst coming on scoring. I think he's someone posted. I think he's considering all the minutes he's played this season. I think he's now on five goals probably. Absolutely brilliant. Augurs well for next season. Jack Clark came on, a little cameo. I thought he did very well. They could just look. You want to finish. We said, look, the worst we want to do is finish 18th. You want to finish above Leicester. That point, I know we got slightly better goal difference. Spoiler at that point, yes, Leicester, they kept us a point of Leicester. Obviously won the El Crapico yesterday. more of that shortly.
So unnecessary.
Well, but no, you've just got to take, I think for next season, but you just got to hopefully build on that for Brentford at home. That certainly won't be easy next Saturday, but take that into that game and see where it leads you for those last 2 games. Leicester away, West Ham at home, because I saw West Ham today, and if they turn up like that, we'll have more than a good chance of beating them.
What are your thoughts, Rich? Because we are looking at this through the lens of EFL next year now, aren't we?
Yeah, and for that reason, I think the performance of Jack Taylor was a positive. I think maybe he hasn't really showed up when he's had chances to. I think he started at Newcastle, if I remember rightly, and didn't, was never really going to impress in that game against those 3 centre midfielders. But actually, in the second half, as we were growing into the game, he sat in, and I think he's involved. I think maybe in the build-up of the move, perhaps that leads to the second goal, if I remember rightly. And I think, we maybe question whether McKenna is right to give Taylor so much minutes, but it's all about next season in that respect. And Connor Chaplin came in and started, and I thought had his most kind of impactful game of the season. So there's lots in there that I like. I like the kind of the defensive organisation seems to be good. I know we've conceded, 2 goals. I think the Beto goal is the only one where maybe you could do better, because McNeil's is a swazzy shot, isn't it, from the edge of the area. So I think there was a lot of personnel stuff. And then as Dave says, I think George Hirst, we've got to do everything we can to keep George Hirst, because I worry that on that form, scoring those kind of goals, there might be people in the Premier League towards the bottom end, if we're honest, but a promoted team might fancy a go at him. And we talked about Amari, we talked about Davis, but we can't lose Delap and Hirst. So I think there's some work to do to just protect that asset, I think.
I mean, famous last words, Dave, but I can't see it. Honestly, I can't see it. I think people will be queued up for obviously Delap and Hutchison and O'Shea and Davis. And I think I agree with Joe Fair's take that 2 of them fairly early will go, lock the door, and I think you can delay on Hirst enough
I think
to get away with that, Dave. Maybe I'm being naive, but I'm fairly confident, which is definitely famous last words, isn't it?
Because it'll go against us as well. But I also think, some possible suitors for George Hirst will potentially look at his injury record as well over the last couple, couple of seasons as well.
Maybe so. I think the difference, though, is I thought Hirst actually improved us as a team when he came on. We know what Delap can do. He's a battering ram and has had a great season, but it's largely been about him creating moments for himself or getting on the end of stuff, whereas Hirst sits in and drops and brings others into the play and gets himself around in a kind of way that gets us forward, whereas Delap is, he's playing a different role because we're struggling in the Premier League. Let's be honest. It's a kind of a bit of a lonely position, which he's done, excelled at. But actually, Hirst as a footballer maybe is the better all-rounder at this stage.
Oh, without question, at this stage, George Hirst is a better all-round bet for us than Liam Delap. Having said that, as we've said before, Liam Delap's ceiling is potentially wow. True. But at this moment in time, George Hirst I think you just don't realise quite how good he was, how good he has been, and he really hasn't looked out of place at that level when in the small time that he's had on the pitch.
His goals to games ratio is pretty really good as well, isn't it?
Really good. Yeah,
it's just putting together 30 games in a season that's been the issue, and we think the numbers will follow. I just wonder a bit if it's does the way he plays lead into I'm always defending players. I hate it when people have a go at players and call them injury prone and get cross with them for getting injured, but sometimes I do think there's a cause and effect there. But we can go on.
Yeah, the one last season was so unlucky. He's got his studs caught in the pitch. Got his studs at Leicester game, when it got his studs caught in the pitch. Then it was so unfortunate, that one. And that just set him back. But let's hope we need to. We need to keep George Hirst for sure, because Delap will obviously go.
Well, that could have been a lot worse, couldn't it? That's the Everton 2, Ipswich 2 chat out of the way. We're going to have a little look at what went on in the Premier League. I'm going to tell you what went on in the Championship as well, because we now know 90% of who we're going to be up against next season. But first, here's a word from our sponsors.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
Thank you as ever to the wonderful people at Atwells, and also our other partners today, One Stop Badges. If you head to the description, you can grab yourself a 10% discount over at One Stop. This week, no rewind show, but we will be back with the Brentford preview and the return of Joe Fairs next Sunday. Rich, do you want to just have a quick little say on, obviously we spoke a lot about the Ipswich Town women last week, and you're kind of our lead guy on that. Do you just want to have a little 30 seconds on Flagship on last week's kind of events?
Yeah, can I'll use 10 seconds of my 30 to apologise to everyone who came and found Seb and I in the away and at Goodison and us for a Blue Monday one-stop badge. We both failed spectacularly at that. So come and find us for Brentford or Leicester or West Ham and we'll sort you out. So apologies for that. One of those things. I was on the road with work last week, so not very organised, and I can't make any excuses for Seb, but lots of things going on.
I'm going to give you another 30 seconds, mate. The clock's
restarted. You said you left your stash at home, Rich.
I left my stash at home. So neither of us could be trusted. Yeah, I mean,
Dave's just working out how many different ways he can get his team monetized.
Yeah, come on, mate. Sort me out. So, I mean, firstly, I'm hoping that I get to sit down with one of the squad. Oh, come on now. One of the squads this week. So we could deal with this separately. Now you guys are derailed this moment of my moment in the centre stage.
Dave. No one's even mentioned Ben Johnson either, dear.
But a great weekend last week, as David Joe kind of talked through, and Town in 20 has appeared today, so folk can watch back some of the key moments from that. And we found out that today that Birmingham were the final team that will make up the WSL Championship, and the City Lionesses got promoted. So it's going to be really excited to see how the team deal with that level above. We maybe very specifically, Ben, in terms of stuff that you guys didn't really get onto last week. Dave talked about the gap. To me, kind of we've talked about the physicality of going from the Championship to the Premier League. That's kind of how I would describe it. I think tactical wise, I think we're set up really well to thrive at that level. But I think we need maybe a few more, players of stature, because I think otherwise we might end up being a little bit bullied at second tier level. But I've got every confidence that it won't be a situation like the men in the Premier League that will be turnover every week. I think that actually is quite a lot of strong momentum that means we should do really well there. So I'm really excited to see what happens. This is going to be an exciting summer.
Rich, just quickly, I was reading something. I know this has nothing to do with it. Just a few seconds. What's happening at Wolves? What the hell? What happened at Wolves?
Wolves. So halfway through the season, teams basically have to prove that they're capable of fulfilling all the requirements for the stadia and other aspects. I think around
they missed the boat.
Paying their players or having contracts or something like that, and making sure that the teams can get up and actually survive up there. And I think Wolves basically didn't even bother submitting an application to fulfill those requirements. So basically went through the motions of a promotion campaign, got quite close to the end, and then the players found out after the final game of the season that the club hadn't even put them forward. Forest got the promotion spot anyway, but imagine going through a whole season
so it wasn't
as a player trying to get promoted,
and then
the club behind you haven't got your back, and you wouldn't have been able to get promoted even if you'd won the league.
Cheers.
So that's a really bad situation there. And again, a good example of what happens in the women's game. It's not great.
Let's head to the Premier League roundup. Right, let's see if we can muster anything to talk about out here. Man City 1, Wolves 0, Villa 1, Fulham 0, Leicester 2, Southampton 0. Maybe one of you can talk about that. Arsenal 1, Bournemouth 2. Fair play, Bournemouth. I like that. Brentford 4, Man United 3. That's unhelpful. Brighton 1, Newcastle 1, West Ham 1, Spurs 1. I wonder if anyone's got anything to say about that. Chelsea 3, Liverpool 1. Do you want to talk about Leicester and Saints? Vardy's on 199 now, Rich.
Yeah,
you know it.
And up to his usual antics, blowing the referee's whistle while
you gotta love him.
He was decked yesterday, wasn't he? The referee, and Vardy blew the whistle. Yeah, he's a never to give it. Have they got an away game next week before they play us, or is it?
Keep talking. I'm going to tell you.
It'll be
they go to Forest.
Yeah, so Derby. So that's the perfect game to get to 200, Jamie. Don't on the beach for us. Just let us have the win. Just very quickly.
Since when is Forest away the perfect game to score?
Well,
it's not, is it?
We'll see tomorrow night how they rally from that defeat to Brentford. They didn't particularly good. It could have. They're getting close to the finish line, and immortality awaits the Champions League spot, and it looks like they're stuttering. So it'd be good to see if they could bounce back against Palace. But Wolves, Ben, they were really in that game at the Etihad, and apart from a couple of posts, they could have maybe got a point at least there. And, we looked at Wolves as our nearest competitors a few weeks ago. And look at them now. But 8-0, do you want to talk about that challenge? Very Leaf Davis. He wasn't even VAR overturned it. Or didn't give the red card. I'm just bitching about referees now. Move on, Ben. Move me on.
Can I,
Dave? You got anything on the?
Not about that game. Can I talk about the Semenyo long throw for Bournemouth?
Can you just say Innovation Labs, because I didn't plug them when we came in with the segment.
Innovation Lab.
We're in association with Innovation Labs.
In association with Innovation Labs. Thanks to Pete. Thanks to our good friend Peter Basford.
Thank you, Dave.
The Semenyo long throw was what explain the trajectory of that one. Where the hell did that come from? Unbelievable. Sort of launched it to the other side of the 6-yard box virtually. So that was a great win for Bournemouth, because Arsenal were obviously wanting to secure second place, but that's not cut and dried now. And as I said earlier, I just saw a dreadful game at the London Stadium. Honestly, Spurs made 8 changes. I can't really say too much. 1-1 at half time weren't too bad, but second half, the biggest non-event of all we have seen this season. So hopefully West Ham will bring that form with them down to Portman Road for the last game. That'd be lovely if they did that. So I think we'd have a good chance.
And
we
the
can but hope.
Cole Palmer goal drought is over as well. Liverpool a little bit after the Lord Mayor's show today at Chelsea.
Yes,
Cole Palmer got a penalty and scored. Hit the post, I think, too.
Yeah.
Finally got his goal.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Get your questions in. I'm just going to talk to the guys a little bit because I was across round 46 in the EFL.
Mate.
So we already knew it was going to be Leeds and Burnley. So the playoffs is Sheffield United, Bristol City and Sunderland, Coventry. Those people who've been asking week after week, do we want to lose another parachute team to relegation? They've got their wish because Luton completely screwed up the final day. So that does mean, let me do my maths, that the only 3 parachute teams, can someone fact check me on that in the comments? Then the only 3 parachute teams will be us, Leicester and Southampton. They've all either been promoted or relegated now. So with my Ipswich Town rose tinted glasses on, Rich, that's very good. For the health of English football and the chasms we talk about every week, that's not very good. I know 2 wrongs don't make a right. We've been on the wrong side of one chasm this year. We've been on the wrong side of the chasm that we're going to be on the right side of the chasm for many years before. It's not healthy. I'm talking about a new world in the Championship though, Rich, where it feels like it's now 95 points to get promoted as opposed to 92 automatically as well. But anything on Luton going? And I dare say there'll be a bit of an auction for a few of their players as well. Maybe that comes up in the questions. But yeah, that's where we are with the Championship. And who we got? League One. Orient and Stockport, Charlton and Wickham are going to be joining one of those 4 as well, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, they won't. The League One playoff is certainly not going to be as strong as the top 2, isn't it? And the Championship top 2 both got 100 points. I mean, that's crazy as well. You talked about the threshold to be at the automatics, but when 1 and 2 get 100 points, I mean,
and Bristol City 68 to get in the playoffs. So that is 32 points fewer than Burnley in second. So this is a real problem in English football. I know we're going to be expected to be on the right side of it. Sorry, continue your thought.
I feel like we can have a more objective conversation about it in a year or so's time, of knowing how the next season pans out. Because
as long as there's a 9 at the start of our total.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it won't be enough, Ben. Might need a 1 and a 0 at the start of it. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the playoffs. I have to admit, I've been watching a lot of your live streams over the last couple of weeks when the Premier League's kind of been done and dusted, and so much drama in the Championship, particularly, we saw at Bradford, great seasons, didn't we, at full time, 96-minute winner and immediate pitch invasion for their supporters, kind of dream of those moments. But I'm really excited to see what Coventry and Bristol City can do, because we know about Sheffield United and their resources. Sunderland have kind of sleepwalked into the end of the season, really, haven't they? Haven't got into the playoffs.
Are they going to do what Huddersfield did under David Wagner? Get in really early, go quiet for the last 6 games, knowing they're going to be in there, and then win them. You don't know, do you?
It's really nicely poised in that respect, isn't it? And Coventry kind of feel like they felt like they've got it on the last day. I know they were basically there, and it just the winner over Borough secured it, but I think there's some teams with some interesting momentum that go into that, and it'll be really fascinating to see what we get. And I do think Sheffield United might not be the team that gets up through the playoffs. I know that the odds are more in their favour than anyone else's, and we've talked about the playoffs are not a lottery. I'm nicking your quotes now, aren't I? But I do feel like Sheffield United's momentum's a little bit iffy.
That must be a new record. If they lose that semi, they get 90. Effectively, they scored 92 against it. It was like a 22-point gap in the table. That must be a new record if they lose that semi.
Well, yeah, and it feels like Leeds before us, and Sheffield Wednesday in the League One season when we got promoted. It's always a team that misses out, and at least Sheffield Wednesday got over the line. So Blades have got to mimic that. But I think there's a question in the chat, Ben, or maybe it's one for your channel, about how strong are Birmingham and Wrexham actually going to be. There's a lot of posturing, there's a lot of money, but yeah, it's difficult to know if they're going to do that kind of the bounce through like we did.
Dave, have you got anything on what you think? Yeah, basically, Dave, there's no mid-table anymore. It's like we had these high tides at the bottom of the table where teams have got relegated now with 50 and 49 points, and it just strikes me that loads of points for the top 3 or 4, unprecedentedly high at the bottom, and just nothing in the middle of the table.
It's just great though, isn't it? The playoffs. I was following it yesterday.
Oh, it's the
the
best,
cameras
yeah.
were. I mean, I wasn't.
Unless you
Must admit, I
lose.
didn't. I weren't you. I mean, you must have been. For 10 minutes, Blackburn were winning at Sheffield United, and all bets were off. That's all.
Oh, they were in.
Then,
and Bristol City were out.
1-0 Coventry. I think Middlesbrough hit the post a couple of times, stuff like that. I mean, that could have flipped round if Borough had got a win. That would put
Dave,
them on.
Sorry to interrupt, Dave. With 10 minutes to go, the title, obviously, it did change in the end. The playoffs could have changed, and the relegation could have changed. If Portsmouth had scored against Hull, all 3 were on with 10 to go.
So just incredible. It goes down to it went down to the final day like that. But as you and Rich quite rightly said, it is probably now. It's going to take 95 points to get it done. Probably next season.
Well, let's see what the EFL have got to say to Leicester when they reconvene with them. But look at the massive gap. It doesn't matter if you get deducted 6 if you finish 10 ahead of everybody else. Right, should we jump into the questions? I'll quickly take that. Paul, who do you want to see go up? I mean, it would be nice if it was Coventry or Bristol City, but if we're playing this get rid of the parachute teams, then Sheffield United. But this is so unhealthy now. This is just not terrible. Good, where basically the teams with the most TV money get promoted every season. And not only do they get promoted, 100, 100, 90, 74, is that what, 76 or something? What? So it's not good. You want a competitive league, and it beggars belief that people still complain about the playoffs. To be fair, the only people that ever complain about the playoffs normally either support a team who've lost in them, or they support the team that finished third, and it's motivated kind of hypocritical complaining. But sorry, go on, Dave.
And do you think Luton perhaps got slightly sidetracked by the new stadium, what's going on there, and the investment that perhaps wasn't on the pitch, and it was more obviously
and Luton have proved, Dave, that
aimed at the new stadium.
Yeah, that you literally have to come up and spend all your TV revenue building an asset base. Okay, it's gone massively wrong, and they held on to the manager too long. I do think with Luton as well, and get ready, Ipswich fans, for some very lazy comparisons, because you're going to be asked a lot, are you worried you're going to do a Luton now? You went up quickly or whatever. But what I will say about Luton, they obviously came up from the National League right through. Critical. They avoided relegation, finished in the middle, lost in the playoffs, and they won the playoffs. But this was also in a season where the doors were opened up by Norwich and Watford messing up and finishing halfway down. And, we've spoken about teams being Premier League ready, and Luton just weren't. And then if your highest signing is £5 million, okay, that shouldn't then inform. By the way, would you take Mark McGuinness back? He's had a really good season. I assume he has a nice relegation release clause in there. Tai Chong as well. Those strikers are stick. Anyway, but yeah, you're going to hear a lot of lazy comparisons. Although I'm the one that goes on YouTube every week, and one of my rules is a sharp rise in football is often followed by a sharp you-know-what. But I think we've done enough to mitigate against that. Right, sorry. I always complain at the contribs for doing long answers, and I just did the longest one out of anybody. David, there you go. Who else do we think will be strong next season? Birmingham, Wrexham.
Again, that's probably one for your answer. I mean, we hear that Birmingham have certainly got the financial clout behind them. They're obviously going to be on. It's a big city club. Let's face it, they've got the fan base there. So you would think Birmingham. Wrexham for me is an odd one. I'm really not sure what way Wrexham would go. You'd think they would be the sort of club that would consolidate. I can't see Wrexham. I can't see Wrexham being up there challenging next season. I certainly can see Birmingham. I think we all agree that, but I don't think Wrexham. I mean, Leicester and Southampton, I mean, they're both pretty basket cases as such, but who knows, as you said, who knows what's going to happen at Leicester with possible points deduction. I'd expect Southampton, they'll probably sell Tyler Diblin for 100 million or whatever they're going to sell him for. No, but, I'd expect Southampton to be, going to say it, there or thereabouts. Yeah, I'm going to say that, but...
knocking on the door.
Other than that, I guess the usual. I mean, for instance, we don't really want to talk about them. How do you see what's going to go on? I mean, them up the road is going to be a really, really interesting close season for them.
Well, you'd expect
going to be some
two of Sargent, Science, and Nunes to go. They've got some other. always recruit well.
Yeah, they do.
Marty Cifuentes might go in there. He's on gardening leave now after falling out with QPR. That'd be a good hire
I thought
for
the
them.
fans wanted after beating a 10-man Cardiff 4-2 that Jack Wiltshire's the second coming, didn't he? I think they're all they.
You're aware where Cardiff finished in the
He's
league.
the new Scott Parker, apparently, Dave.
By the way, Youssef Salek, striker for Cardiff, has just been relegated.
Yeah,
you could do a lot worse. Yeah, you could do it. Hopefully, there's a clause in there. There's a big intangible as well with Birmingham that we had. Just when a club has not been winning, Rich, for years and years and years, and the feel good comes back. And you saw us at the start of last season. And I think you said it yourself. You win a few, and you think, "Oh, this momentum's keeping going. When's it going to stop?" And we're the case study. It literally didn't stop, and we're now the canary in the coal mine to say that don't rule Birmingham out of doing that, Rich.
No, and the other thing that is critical for Birmingham, in a similar nature to us, is that the fan base were hugely disengaged a couple of years ago. The attendances were really lousy. Fans were turning their back on the club. Really, made some really serious.
Stadium was half closed, Rich.
It was dilapidated, wasn't it? They sacked some managers they shouldn't have and brought in really poor replacements, and were just churning through it. And suddenly, it feels very similar to what we've gone through. And now the fan base is on board. We know when you've gone to St Andrews, when Birmingham are at their pomp, it's a really horrible place to go. And that might be a big factor for them as well. The home form was big for us. I imagine it'll be so for Birmingham too.
We should talk about these Ed Sheeran concerts as well, Dave, which is brilliant, isn't it? Do we think the concerts in July we will start away from... He's already on it there, Neil, with his... someone kept tweeting me the other day saying that it was nailed on that Ipswich would play Wrexham on a Friday night that those balls are on the radiator now to be drawn on the first day for the biggest. It's always great for TV ratings because the Premier League don't play that first weekend. And but anyway, brilliant. And this partnership with Ed Sheeran is just brilliant, Dave, isn't it? I love it.
Yeah, so first week of June. Is it first week of
11th,
June?
12th, 13th, isn't it?
11th, 12th, 13th. Yeah, something like that. So,
July.
Don't use this as your official notice of the
No. Sorry, it's not June at all.
It's
the Wardley flight's June because I know I'm away. It's July. Yeah. So no, it can only be good. And you're right, Ben. The tie-in is just the whole profile of the tie-in of the club. For the club is just incredible, really.
Busted Saturday night as well. Charlie Simpson, also a famous blue.
He's from Woodbridge, is he? Or
I think it's Woodbridge. Yeah, I'm not. I must admit, I'm not. I'm away on holiday the preceding week to Ed Sheeran. I saw him in Chantry Park. I don't think I'm going to go.
Yeah, there you go.
Exclusive.
Richard from Chris, one of our wonderful Telegram members. Come and join the Telegram group. So far this season, there's been a marked uptick in our results when Connor Chapman's in the matchday squad. Can one player make a difference even if he doesn't start? Well, the data. If Chris is very good with the data, if Chris says the data says it does, then maybe it can. Rich, what's your take?
I'm always worried when Chris asks a question that's a leading one. I should say whatever Chris says. I think we certainly agree. Whether we kind of deal with physical stature, not having the likes of Chaplin and Smodrich. I think you guys have talked about it on here a few times. Seb and I certainly have too. That lack of leadership around the park. Morsey obviously does a lot of that, but hasn't featured every single game, is generally a bit deeper. I think sometimes we lack a little bit of nous, and we saw that yesterday. There's a little bit of naughtiness, under controlled
personality as well.
And yeah, exactly right. And I think certainly a level down back in the championship, Chaplin will contribute much more in an attacking sense. But yeah, just that common sense sometimes, a bit of that EFL wiseness that the likes of Smodrich and Chaplin have. I think we've missed that.
Right, last one, Dave, from Neil. That's not from Neil. Sorry, that's from Ipswich Town.
26th of June.
There you go. Worst case scenario, how many could we lose in some? Dave, honestly...
we talk about games or players?
Yeah, well, we weren't going to lose any through the summer in the friendlies. But, Dave, I almost don't accept Neil's frame there, because it does really depend what goes the other way. Because even if we lose one or two more than we'd hoped, if one or two more then come in the other end and they're good signings, I don't know.
I don't know about you. I fully expect, obviously, the obvious. I think Delap will be Delap will go. I think Hutchison or someone will take a chance. It's not taking the chances at promoted sub, or you hear perhaps is it Fulham or someone's been sniffing around. Yeah, I would think someone will certainly come in for Hutchison. Davis, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I don't know. Again, perhaps a promoted team might look at him and think, with a bit of,
If only one of them had a link with him, yeah?
Yeah, sorry?
If only one of them had a link with him.
Oh, there
Bring
you
him
go.
home.
Yeah. And I think, as we've said before, the other one who I think's had a really good season, actually, he's been a great signing. He's been O'Shea, so maybe there. But look, if that happens, that happens. But you're quite right, Ben. We've got the finance there. Is who's going to be coming into the way?
Dave, you've got a trade in the FFP era. You even if this will sound a ridiculous thing to say. Even if you sell someone, you sign someone, it's pretty much the same on the pitch, but you're putting income in on the balance sheet and turnover for the FFP. And you know that even if it's the same fee going in as out, the clever accountants will be able to ratchet it so there's more coming in for the first years than there is going out. And it needs to be done. And you can't be too terrified of it, especially, Dave, if the gold at the end of the rainbow is another 100 million quid and you can be signing players for 20, 25 million again the next year, which it blows my mind that we're even saying this given the first 8 years of this bloody podcast. Yeah.
No, you're right. And look, the bottom line is whatever, we are going to have a more than competitive championship ready squad at the start of next season, without a shadow of a doubt.
There you go. Right. And with that, I've gone over the hour mark. Last word from you, Richard. Great to have you on the flagship, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm no Joe Fairs, though, so normal service I'm sure will resume next week. Catch me and Seb for Brentford preview Thursday, 8 p.m. But yeah, have a good long weekend, everyone.
Brilliant. Last word from you, Dave.
Yeah, enjoy the long weekend and bring on Brentford.
Bring on Brentford. We will see you for preview on Thursday and flagship next week. Thank you for joining us for Blue Monday and Ipswich Town podcast. It was Everton 2, Ipswich 2. See you later.